Hello. How's it going? Can you guys hear me okay? Audio good? Let's get those spaceships slapping. I think I have chat running properly now. So we should see messages popping up on the screen. Okay. All right, you guys. So we're gonna be working on Space Bump today. This is a project that I started a year ago, basically after the last Shenanigan Jam, and it was essentially a spaceship version of what we did with Goop Legacy. So I'm just going to pop it open and take a look at where it's at, because it's been some time. Let's get some jams going too. Let me know if the music is too loud. Okay, so in Space Bump, you are... What's going on here? Yeah, Game Maker Studio 2 is way better than 1.4. Alright, so in Space Bump, you are controlling this spaceship. So we have pseudo space physics, so when you press A and D, you shoot little bursts of steam. And that kind of turns your ship. And if you want to steer, then you kind of inherit your previous momentum. So it's kind of like floaty tank controls, I guess you would say. So as you travel around the area, you'll see space stations that are named after maybe like an organization or something. So we've got my home station is the Burlong Group. And then there's other spaceships flying around. There's also asteroids and mines that are floating around. So the idea is I should be able to bang into these objects in space in order to acquire resources from them. So let's see if that still works. Yeah, so I got some rock, I got some iron, and I should be able to open my interface here. So here's my inventory. It looks like I'm pre-populating it with these little guys. And then I've picked up a rock and some iron. And I have a certain number of inventory slots as well. Let's see here. Turn my game volume down just a little bit. Okay. So I can travel around. I can bang into opposing ships and fight them. So I'll show that in a minute. I'm just trying to get myself reacquainted with what this game even is, because it's been about a year since I worked on it. Okay. So I'm going to hit a mine next time I see one and see what that does. So let's go. Okay. So it kind of flings me back, and I take some damage. And I'm pretty sure we have death of some kind. I think you turn into an escape pod, and then you're invulnerable and you can fly back. Okay, so I just banged into this Trumbull ship. So this is the stats breakdown before the battle starts. So it looks like either we have identical stats, or maybe I haven't programmed the stats yet, or it's a display bug. I don't really know. Presumably I'm going to lose because I'm starting with, worse. Yeah. Okay, so I exploded. Now I'm an escape pod. And with this, I think I can warp back home. Yeah, so I'll just warp back, roughly. I think the warp just gets you close. Okay, so when I touch my home base, then it turns me back into a starting spaceship. And then at the station, there's a bunch of stuff that I can buy that boost my ship or give me stats in different ways. And I think I have an Inkscape file. Yeah. So this is what's in the game at the moment. We've got all these different kinds of things to pick up, and then these are the drops that come out of them. So this pink thing drops these pinkish purple items, etc., etc. And then down here are the modules that I can install into my ship to do stuff. I got ship info, I got cargo. Okay. So for my own sanity, I was using Trello last time to kind of keep track of what was going on in this game. So let's take a look at the Trello board and just see what the heck is going on here. So, okay. So on the to-do list, we got a whole bunch of new features that we need. So like we can't remove modules from the ship. Modules are all the same, so they don't have any levels or qualities or anything. When your inventory is full, just nothing happens, so that's missing. We've got some new ships. We've got all kinds of stuff. So I think right now the game is maybe 40 hours into development. So I think the next thing to do is this tooltip in the space station interface. So let's quickly take a look at the space station interface and see what that's talking about. Okay, so if I bang into a space station, then I can see I've got all these gummy bears that are just my default loot. So I think if I click these, then I sell them and I get a bunch of space dollars. And then I can buy these modules by clicking them. So that's cool. So there's a couple things going wrong here. One is depth sorting. So you'll notice that when I bought this, it's down here behind this interface, so it's kind of bluish. And if I click it, then it kind of like pops back out in front. So that's a little bit weird. And also, this interface isn't really responsive. So when I'm hovering over things, nothing happens. And when I click on stuff, it just immediately sells the thing. And I think the original intent was this middle window was going to be where sort of tooltips are. So when I click on something, we should show some information about it. And then maybe have a button to buy or sell or something like that. And the other thing here, let's see. So I think if I buy stuff, then it should affect my stats. So like a space knife, maybe. Yeah, so space knife just increased my damage, but I can't see that information anywhere except for over here. So let's try to figure out how this code is set up. Station interface. Let's close everything down first. Okay. So let's see, station interface. Let's also see all the spots where this is being referenced, so we know. So it looks like the player ship is going to bang into the human trade post, which I guess is the space station. We grab the space station's information. We spawn the space station interface, and that is what determines what is available for sale and stuff. So I think inventory modules. Okay. So if we go to the draw GUI event, this is where the space station's interface is laid out. So we have player inventory here. We have stats. So this area is the left side. So let's denote that properly. Okay, and then we have the station inventory, which I believe is on the right. And modules are at the bottom. Okay, so we're completely missing the middle section. So I'm going to, for now, just steal this initial setup code from the cargo section. Let's see, tooltip area. Tooltip section is 1. And we're going to rename these. So this is sort of a quick and dirty bad programming practice here. Notice how I just kind of copied this thing and dropped it off. What I would do once I'm done with this is I would refactor this and try to find a way to make this a little cleaner so that I don't have any dry violations in here. Cargo, cargo, cargo. Okay. So I think we're good there. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of these because all we need is tooltip section left and right. So let's just do a quick test here. By just drawing some text in that tooltip area to make sure that we're actually on the right track. We also probably want to know what's the bottom of this. Okay, so we have section top, looks like, and let's go to the create event. I think we've got something in here. Section bottom. Okay, so we have section top and section bottom, so we already have those variables, so we don't need to worry about that. So we're going to draw the text. Tooltip section middle equals, it's just going to be the mean of these two things. All right, so we're going to draw at tooltip section middle. Actually, that's going to be middle X. And we'll just draw it at tooltip section middle Y. Do the same thing. We'll just draw test text. 1, scale of 1, color, sorry, rotation of 0, color of white, alpha of 1. All right, so all we're doing here is just putting some text in there to kind of refamiliarize with the code base and make sure that this is what we want. And you also notice that now in order to test this station interface, I need to leave the station and come back and bang into it each time, which is going to be annoying. So I'm just going to slow down this aspect of testing. So I'm going to check the human trade post here. So it looks like I have this thing called a trade post cooldown, and only if my cooldown is 0, then I can spawn a station interface. And then as long as I continue to collide with it, then I reset the cooldown. So we're going to go ahead and update the player ship so that the cooldown starts at 0. So that way I can just go ahead and bang into it right at the gate. So what this should do is if I rerun the game, then I should just immediately spawn a station interface. Yep. So this is pretty important when it comes to developing game features. You're going to want to try to find any aspect of your development that's slowing down the feedback loop between what you're trying to do and when you actually get feedback about it. So now we should be able to pretty rapidly develop this interface. Okay, so we need to be able to draw tooltip, as well as we need to know what we have selected. So let's think about this. Okay. So we want to know station item selected. So let's see, let's take a look at how we are displaying the station inventory. Okay, so we have this thing called station items, as well as inventory qualities. So let's figure out where that comes from. Station items. Human trade post. Okay. So it looks like whenever we hit a space station, we pre-populate an inventory for it. And that way, if we keep coming back to that space station, we'll keep seeing the same inventory, but with some kind of a reset cooldown. So it looks like every 15 minutes, a given space station will reset itself. What's up, Kyla? Going pretty good. I'm just trying to reacquaint myself with this space project. Okay. So I'm trying to make a sort of tooltip system here. We probably want to just have a baseline sort of item selection thing first. So let's do this. Station item selected. We'll just say item ID selected. And let's take a look at, I think inside the station interface draw GUI event, we're drawing the text, we are checking for clicks. And the first thing we're doing here is as soon as the item gets clicked, we buy it. So see the script buy space item. So ideally what we would do is we would move this function into a button. So you'd click the item and it would be selected. You would see some kind of a tooltip about the item, and then you would be able to buy it from there. So you can actually decide what it is that you're doing. So let's see, item, oops, station, let's see, what did I name this variable? Item ID selected. So we're gonna keep this simple for now and just grab the item ID. Later, we'll need to actually tie it to the specific item that we have clicked on. So, okay. And actually, let's make a script for this so that we can more easily use this and expand it later. Okay. Interface. Seems like the right place for it. Station interface. Select item. So we'll start with this. So now instead of just doing this sort of manually here, we're instead going to do station interface select item. That. So that way, once we start expanding this and adding it to things like clicking on my modules, my cargo, whatever, then we can update that as well. Okay, so now that we have an item selected, let's take a look at what we can do in the tooltip area. So for starters, we're going to need to not draw anything if we don't have anything selected. So is this a new game or an existing game? This is a new game, but it's just it's only made for the purpose of this stream, and it's just for fun, I think. So no sort of like full development plans necessarily. And this game was started about a year ago, and I think I streamed development on it for maybe 6 weeks or something, and then took a breather. So let's see. So now we're going to only draw if we have an item ID selected. And let's see. Let's take a look at, so we have all these different item IDs. Let's see if items have, okay, so we don't have any descriptions on these items. We just have names. So at the very least, we can draw the item's name. So instead of drawing test text in the middle, item info, we're going to grab the name. All right, so what used to happen is I would click on one of these and it would buy it. So presumably now if I click it, then we have the item quote selected. Okay, so that just draws the name of it. We're missing information about the item itself. And also this is drawn in the middle, which probably shouldn't be. So let's solve one problem at a time. So first let's move the text. So we'll establish a Y position variable and then we'll have it work its way down. So we'll just start at the top and then we can kind of move things along. Is that MMO thing shown on YouTube available? Yes, yeah. So the MMO thing is over on itch, and it's for free. We just did it for a game jam, so it's just it just is what it is, and that's just kind of it's not going to get any updates or anything. So I think that it's got quite a few bugs and all that. But tooltip Y position, we're going to start at section top. And yeah, we do have a, I wouldn't say a project template necessarily, but we do have a huge volume of sort of like bits of projects laying around as well as convenience functions. So the big one is this bscotch pack here, which is a collection of scripts. So if I pop this open, you can see I've got this like animation frame management system that we have made, audio management, buffer handling. We've got like 50 different scripts for handling lists and stuff here, as well as down here. We've got save management, way to handle generic settings, blah, blah, blah. So we kind of like have genericized a lot of the stuff that we've developed over the years and then turned it into a package that we move from game to game to speed things up. It's kind of that, you don't want to just keep re-solving the same problems over and over again. You want to be bumping into new stuff and kind of stand on your own shoulders as you go. Okay, so we're going to, so in my font set script, we actually store in advance the spacing of a font. So when we run this font set, we now have a global variable, which is font spacing, which is number of pixels that we need. Oops. Which is number of pixels that we need in order to sort of go from one line to the next. So this is super useful. So if we set this to the middle, then we can say, we'll start at the top of the section plus half of one line, and then we can drop it one more. And then what we should see is just for testing. So we have regular fonts. Let's see. So in both cases, this should easily allow me to draw some lines of text. So we'll just do test text. Make this header a different color. So one thing here is I'm not actually, when I'm doing this draw text function, I'm not actually taking into account the fact that we have a limited amount of space in this interface. So it would be the case that text would spill over past the edge if we had a name of something that was longer. So just bear that in mind. What's up, the Rumpus? Yeah, we got a game dev stream. Okay, so it looks like our font spacing is a little bit off. And this comes from this here, font get size. So an easy solution to that is we can just actually pre-initialize the font spacing map. But it's pretty close. Okay, so let's initialize our fonts. And this is my oInit object, which is where we just initialize everything in the game. So up here, let's make a new script. We'll call it init fonts. This could just be in the interface as well. All right, so originally this header font is 80, which I think is fine. So we'll start with that. And then this font was getting a spacing of 36, but that was a little bit too narrow. So we're gonna maybe bump that up to like 46, and we'll see how that goes. Oh yeah, mechanical keyboard. So good. Yeah, now that I have chat coming up on the stream, I plan on getting this over to YouTube. So, okay, so that's still not quite there. Just for safety, let's actually go ahead and check both of these. So this is 46, 80. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just draw some lines here so we can see what the real problem is. We're going to go middle X. Let's do this. So I'm going to just draw a line in between each line of text so that we can see the actual spacing that's being rendered and determine whether we have a problem and where the problem is. Let's do a red line. Okay, so what this is going to do is after we draw the first header, we're going to draw a red line, and then after we draw the next line of text, we'll draw another red line, and that'll show us what our spacing is. We can even do this. Put another red line at the top. Okay. So it looks like these are both stupid. So the G's are hanging down below my line spacing. So I clearly need more vertical space there. And my white text here is weirdly vertically aligned. So let's try to fix both of these issues. Let's take a look at my normal font here. See what the problem is with this one. This font is Candara. Let's just try a different font maybe. Just see if that fixes it. And we'll also give more space to the header font. Okay, that's better, although we're still gonna probably have issues with these you know, lowercase things kind of dangling down. So let's give this even more spacing. And let's update our test text to include some lowercase letters as well. So this is all just part of the, you know, quick iterative process to get things established so that we can then quickly move forward. Okay, so I think that's gonna be good enough. All right. Gotta send a tagged to your frigged. Okay. So, next step, let's scale down the header text a little bit so that it's not so huge. And that means we're also going to need to update our spacing around it. And I think the main text is maybe fine for now. Okay, so the next question is, what do we want to draw with regard to these modules? So I don't even know what they do, and I don't remember how they were initialized. So let's see. Okay, so we have stats. Stats have descriptions and names. We have stats like cargo space, precision. Okay, so the stats have descriptions, but the items don't. And items have baseline prices, which are automatically created off of their spawn rates, looks like. So this is a little trick from Crashlands, which is if you have a game that has a large number of items that are generated out of code in terms of how the player gets them and how they spawn and stuff, don't manually set the prices of items or anything about their economy. So in the case of something like Crashlands, the price of an item was the materials required to build it. So we originally set all those things by hand, and it was, by the time we had 100 items in the game, making any changes to the game was basically impossible. So you always want to try to automate the values of these different things. Okay, so let's see. We have space inventory. We have item prices, drops. Okay, so these are weighted drop rates from the different items in the world. We have different quality levels. Really went hard on the spell check here. Legendary. You gotta have legendary items. That's what keeps people coming back, you know? All right, we've got our grid. All right, let's check our items script. So So here we're initializing all of the items in the game. We've got modules, we've got rocks, we've got cash. So the way that we've set up the inventory system in this game is that every single thing in the game is an item to make it easy. And then when you acquire money, for example, that's just a stack of inventory items of cash, which is kind of a fun way to do it. It does mean that, for example, anything can go into anything. So like I could code up the game so that I can put another ship into my own inventory, which is kind of awesome and maybe something we want to take advantage of later. All right, so here we are setting up items. Items have categories, so we have this miscellaneous, hazard, station currency, ship, module. We have drops that come out of the asteroids. So the question is, init modules. This must be where all of the stats are. Okay, so we have speed, extraction, precision. So you notice here I am manually setting the prices of these modules based on some kind of a modifier, right? So like the precision module has a price modifier of 3. So this is probably, in the long run, this is a bad way to go about this. Because what we should do is we should algorithmically get the price modifier based on what the stats are. So that way, as we add more stats, then the prices get automatically determined. So let's take a look. Stats. Okay. So we'll get back to that, but what we'll do soon is we'll actually move those price modifiers and switch those over to be attached to the stats, and that way we can make as many modules as we want, and the prices will just automatically come out of that. Okay, init modules. Okay, so we have a map called module info. Modules installed. That's not being used for anything, so I'm just going to delete that. Module price base. Okay. So, module info. So every module is going to have a map, which then has a list of stats attached to it. So let's start there and see if we can figure out how to render that in the station interface. So for starters, we only want to do this with modules. So info dot category. So if this is a module, actually let's do a switch statement because there's a good chance that we're going to want different kinds of tooltips later. In the current setup, we are modifying based on relativity to 1. Yeah, so it looked like in the modules script, we had some kind of module base price, which was 1,000. And then I think for easy testing, so we could just buy a bunch of modules, that was overwritten to 1. So the idea would be, and this 1,000 came from how the prices shook out from the rest of the things in the game. So I think the idea would be we would start with 1,000 and then these would apply a modifier to the base price. And then there's also modifiers that would come from the quality of the module as well. Because the quality would also determine how many stats or what the value of the stats are and stuff like that. All right, so back, set up modules. So this thing called module info. So we're going to need that. Get these windows out of here. Get too many things. All right. So we're back in the station interface. We have our module. We know that our global variable is called module info. So first we got to make sure that we actually have the information for this module. Do I use GM Live? I do not. I have played around with it a little bit, but haven't used it too much. So we want to say if this module actually has information. So scrap this. Let's see. Module. What do we call this thing? This is called mod info. So now before we go too intense on rendering this whole thing out, let's just straight up draw the text, or just draw the point in the list. Okay, so we're not getting anything here. So let's try to figure out why. Item cat module. That's because I'm looking at the wrong thing. This. Yup. Okay. So these all appear to have one thing listed. So let's actually draw that. And let's draw this on the left side. Tooltip section left. Plus margin. And then we will write a line to draw the value. And it's stats, so I think we just need stat setup stats, the stat ID, and the name. Okay, so this should allow us to take a look at what stats are present on a given item. don't know is how much. Also, it looks like everywhere else in the game, we are not even using this regular font. So maybe we're using this small header. I suppose I can come up with some kind of description for these items. Okay, so these look right. Health tanks give HP, protractor gives precision, turbo box, armor plates, health tanks, blah blah blah. Okay, so now we need to figure out what the value of the stats would be, which I have absolutely no idea. So let's see what we have laying around here. Stats. Stat get value. That seems like what I would need. Stat and level. Okay, let's just... I don't know what the level is, but we'll just start with that, and I'll figure out the level later. Stat get text display. That's probably even better. Is that... Oh, dang. That gives the name and the value. Did all that work for nothing? Every now and then, you get a gift from your past self. Sometimes you get kicked in the mouth, but, you know. Alright, so we want to get the stat, which is this stat ID. We'll say the level is 0 for now, because I don't know what it is. So stat display is a one-dimensional array. Has 2 slots, so we're gonna do that and that. Okay. Yeah, this is doing what we want. This kind of explains how everything works. Steam pump. This seems wrong. Should I really be getting 0? Okay. So I think these stats are wrong. Player update stat values. Okay. So it looks like what happens is every module will, quote, level up your stats. So what I'm seeing with these modules is actually just the baseline stat value. So like this warhead isn't going to give me 2x crit damage. It's only going to... That's just how much crit damage I start with. So if we look here, yeah, shield waffle. That's... I've got 0, that's 0. So I'm level 0. This is all zeros. Health tank, 100, that's the baseline HP. So really what needs to happen is I need to show the difference in like what these would give per level. Right? So stat get value. Okay, so actually I probably want, let's start with this. Stat get change. Current stat level. So the idea here would be I should be able to put in 2 different levels of stat. Yeah, let's take a look at that. PS7 Cho. Yeah, so these stats have compounding, cubic, or linear growth rates. So how much a stat gives you is going to be dependent on your current level and then how much that stat gives. So how do we want to display that? Right? Because if your stats are an accumulation of all of your modules, which basically give you levels. And what the change is dependent upon So one note here is all of my stats are only shown in absolute values. Maybe I need a middle column in my ship info that shows my level. And we should just focus on the points instead. Okay, let's take a look at my cargo and stats. Actually, let's rename this region because it's wrong. Okay. Player inventory and stats. Draw player stats. So we're drawing the stats here, and we have this thing just called draw stats. So it seems like we just need a middle column. Yeah? Because we know the stat level, which is kind of the core thing. Stat get text display. All right, so stat get text display should return 3 columns. And also because people can't handle starting to count at 0, we'll just add 1 to the level. when we display it. Stat get text display. All right, so when we draw stats, we now need to just draw 0, 1, 2. And when we get the display, maybe put or LV or something to kind of show what that means. Okay, and this we will just replace with 2. All right. Left, X, right. Let's draw this in the middle. Okay. Now we just have level 1 of all of these. Ship info. Okay. So all these LVs are definitely annoying to look at. So we gotta figure out what to do there. I'll just cut that out for now. Okay. So I guess the idea is when I buy these things, that it's going to boost my level in that area, which is nice. We'll do L. Maybe L is better. All right. So I can click on these things. Notice that there's no quality coming in. So we need to kind of figure out what the quality would mean from that. Let's see. Player updates stat values. Okay, so we have this module. It has stats, and it appears as though module quality is not doing anything. So we'll have to figure out what that's going to mean. All right. Anyway, first things first. Okay, I'm actually going to commit what I have done so far because we've made a little bit of progress here. So let me zoom in. What did we do? Began implementing central tooltip in the space station interface. Cool. Push to master. Space bump reminds you of endless sky. Yeah, I mean, really, it's going to probably end up basically the same as No Man's Sky. Like, it's pretty much going to be identical to that, you know? So, but you wouldn't even be able to tell the difference. All right. So, next step is, let's actually get some descriptions on these items. Item description. so that we can say something. So item descriptions could be considered a way to convey information to the player. I think most importantly, it's a way to convey jokes. Because players can figure things out on their own, you know? Oh, the argument count check. Good call. Thank you, sir. Gotta love this pair programming. Okay. So for starters, just so I kind of have these descriptions, I'm just going to go ahead and insert them before the item category everywhere. So I could have put this at the end. However, I generally want to reserve the end for if I have optional arguments and things like that. And presumably we do want every item to have a description. You know, for the jokes. Okay. So for now, we're just gonna like put some placeholder text in here for these different modules, and we can update that later. Okay, we're too deep. Let's get out of here. So now instead of screaming description, we're going to scream item description by stealing it out of here. And we are also going to use draw text ext, which will insert line breaks. This gets a little bit weird though. Because of how scaling works with all this stuff. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna draw this in the middle. Actually, we can draw this left justified. So we're gonna draw this starting at if you haven't worked with text scaling and sort of fitting text into weird interface compartments before, it gets very unusual. So just know that that's a thing. And don't feel bad if it's hard to figure out, because it took me many years to get this to a point where I could figure it out. All right, so we want to draw at our current Y position. The string we want to draw is this description. All right, so next is sep, which is the separation between lines of text. When you do the string separation, it already takes the text scaling into account. So if my font spacing was like 100, and I scaled it down by half, then GameMaker would automatically cut the spacing to 50. So that's nice. However, it doesn't do that with width. So if I say the width is, let's say text draw width, obviously my width is going to be the right minus the left. That just gives me the, the gap there. So if I put text draw width and then I scale it down, so let's say I have my description scale as like 0.5. Okay. Put my scaling in. My angle is 0. Do white, 1. And actually, just to kind of show desk to draw, just to show what this looks like, I'm going to put in some fake text so you can see just how weird this gets. So if we have a long sentence in here, we just want to draw the text. Okay. And we need description to draw. Okay. So without changing anything else, I'm just going to use this line break style of text drawing, and I'm going to scale the text down. So my vertical position is going to be weird. Basically, everything's going to be weird. Okay. So you notice that for the width, I just grabbed the left and the right, and I scaled my text down. What that ended up doing was GameMaker scaled down the width as well. So it scales down the spacing and the width. So what you have to do is you have to actually unscale the width by dividing it by the scale. So if we say divided by desk t-scale. Okay, so now GameMaker's, we basically undo GameMaker's automatic scaling of the width area, and then we're fine. So you also notice that vertically this is wrong. Also, a great way to test this out is to test out your quality of your scaling is to just every frame give it a random scale and see if it fits. So you can actually just watch it kind of shifting around. Okay, so you notice that of course nothing is moving below it, so we need everything else to adapt. So let's do that. All right. So right now we have our font being set here. It's being middle aligned, which is fine. So the first thing is our tooltip Y position. We need to be moving it down the correct amount. So we get this description height. So there's a nice function that GameMaker has, which is string height ext, which takes the same arguments as draw text ext transformed, which allows us to say, give me description to draw. Separation is once again font spacing. And we have our text draw width. Okay. Now, you might think that this is going to work because I've put in all the parameters and everything is fine. So instead of doing font spacing, I'll do this. However, there's still one more thing missing. Okay. So I'm gonna actually just put a timer on that rescale so that we can actually see what it's doing. Equals 1. Maybe we'll do like a second. So every second we'll just pick a new scale so we can see what this is doing. Yeah, 25 to 1. Ooh, forgot to reset the cooldown. Okay. So you notice that this isn't quite spacing properly. That's because there's one final piece of this that we need to figure out, which is we need to multiply the height of this thing by the description scale once again. It's possible that our spacing values are too tight, but that's another issue. But what you see here is it just brings it right in line. So we can probably update our spacing here to give ourselves a little more breathing room. So that's 40. Maybe we can do at 48. So no matter how we size this, it'll fit in our window and it'll move everything down below it, and we've got no problems. These are those kinds of things where you know, somebody first gets started and they're super pumped about being a game developer because of all the cool game designs they get to come up with. And it's like, yeah, but how do you feel about text spacing? Because that's half the job. All right. So we're going to now delete all this, and we're going to take if you want to go fast, you gotta slap a fast goer into the back of the engine hole. Okay, I think that's what that does. It's moderately larger than a medium normal box, but somewhat smaller than a box that's larger than it. So now we got some text in here. Yeah, so one note here is I do have a number of functions to help with these kinds of things, but I'm just kind of talking through it so you guys can see. If you ever run into a scenario where you say, like, this aspect of game dev is tedious, you got to remember that as the programmer, you have all the tools you need to just make that not be so. It'll be tedious the first time when you figure it out, and then you develop tools to solve it. Fast goer. Cool. I think we need a little bit more spacing here. And now we need to just set the size so we can stop doing this dumb random resizing thing. All right. So let's fix this. Okay, have fun. Where was that? Got distracted. Here we go. All right, so we'll just scale the description by 0.75. Seems good. So this definitely clips stupidly, but yeah, we'll worry about that later. Okay, so now we know what level all of our stats are, and we know how many points of cargo space that'll give. All right, so we're going to commit this. We're going to call this, we'll call this an improvement. And this is module descriptions are now properly rendered in the tooltip area of the station interface. Oops. All right, let's take a look at Trello here and figure out where even are we. Okay, tooltip of the space station interface is our thing. Let's kind of break this task down a little bit more so we can figure out when was this card made, by the way? August 4th, 2018. It has almost been a year. Cool. Okay, so the items we need to do on the space station interface, or maybe we should just break this down into individual cards. Okay, so next is the tooltip in the space station interface should apply to cargo. So that's part one. And then we also need the tooltip in the space station interface should uniquely apply to the specific item you clicked, not just the type of item. And then after that, we'll probably also want to show a selection area around the item that you clicked in the station interface. And the last thing would be to spawn buttons in the space station to purchase or sell items. Okay, so let's take a look at clicking on cargo. So we know we have our player inventory here, and we're drawing stuff, and everything is wonderful. And then when we click, we sell the item. So we're going to not do that. Instead, we're going to station interface select item. And once again, just the item. And then we also want to do that with our modules. But what are we doing with those? Modules. Module items. All right, we'll worry about that in a sec. If I go to my cargo and click a gummy bear. Okay. We've shown the gummy bear. Also, we probably want to show the price in here. Hold on, I've got a dog visitor. We want to also display price in the space station. So we've got a lot of work to do on this interface. But phase one, you can click on Gummy Bear. You can click on things in both areas. Also, there's no sound when you click on things, which is stupid, and we need to fix that. Okay. So let's select item. Let's actually make sure that we width into the station interface to make sure that this is proper. And for now, let's also put sound. Okay. We got sounds. Next up, what about the actual thing I clicked? Like what, I clicked this speedy booster versus that speedy booster. And what's the deal? What's that about? Let's see if we can figure out what the heck this means. Okay, every space station has its inventory, and we are looking at, let's see, go to draw GUI, let's look at probably yeah. So the station inventory, we are going to, we have this thing called sinv. So every space station has a list of its items, and we are clicking on actual slots. Being rearranged. Let's rename I here because that's non-descriptive, and that's going to be a problem. Station inventory slot. So just for reference here, this section is rearrange items by price, and then items shown. Let's do the same thing here. Sometimes for the sake of going fast, you'll just do something like call something I, which it's going to get you in trouble at some point. Okay. Rearrange items by price, and then we iterate down through the priority list. So it looks like if we have multiple items of the same, okay, if we have multiple items of the same quality level, then we just don't worry about it. Yep, this song is in the album. It's called Dispatch via Intergalactic Railgun Power. Name all your debug variable. Expletives. I generally actually leave most debug things in, and instead use configuration management to solve that problem. So up here in GameMaker, you'll have your configs, your targets. So typically what I would do is under configuration, you can make a new developer, so like a dev configuration. And then what you can do with that is, for example, like here's the script that we use to send out debug messages, which is just our echo. So then we can just say, so now we're only going to perform this function if we're in the developer configuration. And when we have our build machine, then it changes our configuration to some other thing. And then that allows us to have all kinds of developer-specific things that are tied to the configuration, and that we have no real risk of those things ending up on the player side. Yeah, when we run Levelhead on the developer side, there are just thousands of debug messages popping through constantly. Littering your code with if dev print debug. Well, no, we don't do that because it's all baked into this echo function. So if the echo function itself checks for that, then you just do your normal thing. So if you find yourself retyping the same if statement for every single time you do the same thing, then you need a script there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because normally GameMaker's debug logging, so I'll show you our echo function, is you pass any number of arguments in, and it converts all of them to strings and concatenates them together. And then it prints that as one debug message, and it also prints out the name of the object that's performing that, so that you can see the stack more easily. So you can very easily then like grab the console, and then you can look for a name of a specific object, and then you can figure out what's doing what. So yeah, by default, if you're just using show debug message, then that's, in my experience, not quite enough to get you the information you need. And because it only accepts a one string argument, then you have to manually string things together like this, which is pretty rough. Okay. So next up, all right, let's see. So I think the idea here is modules don't have levels, and the level of the module that the stats get applied come from the quality of the module. And then what your ship is capable of comes from how many slots, module slots your ship has, and then what modules you plug in. Seems correct. Okay. Okay, so all this is doing, as we add these things to our inventory, we'll figure this out. We'll figure this out later. let's get back on track. Okay. Tooltip, the space station interface should apply to cargo. Done. That's done. Next is it should uniquely apply to the specific item you clicked, not just to the type of item. Okay. I'm going to rename human trade post because it's a space station. So human station. This parameter definition. The comment is just it's just for assistance. It doesn't actually enforce anything. Yeah, we might end up with different types of space stations later, but I think we can leave it called human station in the code, maybe. I guess we do have a category of item called a station, so maybe at some point we'll have a... We'll call it a human station. We have a space station object, which presumably they should all behave the same way, so we can make a human station as a child of that later, if we want to. Okay. So inside of the space station, we have inventory, which has items and qualities. And when I buy a module, do I know what the quality of the module is, or do I just get one? Buy space item. So we're actually not factoring in the quality level of the module at all. We'll have to fix that. For now, we are selecting the item. And we want to now choose between select item. So now we want to actually get the slot of the item as well as the I think it was more that old me just said, yeah, we're gonna need to do this later, but we're not gonna worry about it right now. So, you know, which is fair. But now it's later, and now it's my problem. Let's see. So this gets a little bit tricky. Station interface select item. We're gonna say we can just make an enum in here. Station region. We'll call this player cargo module or station inventory. Station interface. We can put the enum in here just for safety. And instead of item ID selected, we also want item slot selected. And we also want item region selected. So we're basically saying, like, what did we click on? Where did it come from? make this a required argument. Player cargo and station inventory. All right, so we're going to want to basically figure out what's in each slot and select that specific item and then anything else we need in order to render it. All right, so if we're clicking on a module, so the item ID is going to be so our station interface has a station instance which has coordinates. We're gonna want some scripts to handle this because I get a feeling this is gonna get a little bit weird. Stations. So as you may recall, every station uses its coordinates as a unique identifier. Station coordinates. Okay. Space station. And just for reference, I'm going to steal this code. Just drop it here and we'll just clear it out later. So this is going to be the item ID. How you doing, Coco? Dog has a cough. What are you going to do? The item info. And let's also do the price, because I think this varies. Okay, so there's an inventory. And we have two lists, one for items. Chords. Station items equals qualities. So where does this come from? Inventory, inv tag. All right, so it's just part of the space station, so that's fine. Okay. That's going to be due for refactor later, but that's a problem for future me. Station get item in slot. Actually, no, I'm going to fix that now. All right, so these are local variables to space station, but they're actually used to refer to sections in this global map. So I'm just gonna take this out. Space inventory. We're gonna make ourselves some macros. Items, qualities, time. Because ideally, we can actually call this script anywhere without needing to do it in the space station interface or whatever. It should be, everything should be as standalone as possible. So, hey, mini area 13. I'm just working on a sort of a game for fun, just for the stream. It's a space game where you bang into stuff, buy things, sell things, and shoot things. So, you know, just all your staple space activities. So right now I'm working on building an interface so that you can interact with buying and selling things in a space station. Okay, so we have the quality, we have the item. And last, we need to make sure that we aren't reaching outside the interface, or outside the list. Let's see if it's greater than or equal to the slot. I just want to say if it's... If the slot is less than the list size, then we have a valid slot, and then we can overwrite these. We're going to grab this. That's going to be the slot. Boop. The item quality is going to be from here. And the price, let's see. How do we know about prices? Station payment preferences. Okay, so I guess we want to... Yeah, EVE Online is, it's a game for children compared to Spaceball. And that's, I mean, that's not even really an opinion. You know, you can measure it using science and facts. All right, so we need to station get payment preference. Because every space station has their own thing. Coordinates, item ID. Get rid of this. Return their payment modifier. Okay, so payment preference is how much they are willing to... Okay, so by default it's 0, actually. Station payment preferences. All right, so it just has a map of items. Let's see if this works. Are you ready? Are you ready for some smooth code? Here's some convenience. Undefined default. This is a script that returns a default value if we get an undefined value. We're going to do map get station payment preferences, station chords, the item. And we're going to return 0 by default. Boop. There. So map get is basically our own version of, you could try to do this. Right? Like this is what you could do in many other languages to retrieve nested structures. GameMaker cannot do that yet, but it will be able to at the end of this year. So instead we use things like this script to retrieve things. Okay, so we have the price here. Now, I need to know what the price actually turns out to be. So in the station interface, we draw the prices. But what is the price? Station get module price. Crap! I already did it. I already did this. Oh, buddy. The station only has modules. No, map get just iterates through. So you basically have a map of maps, like a map of nested maps. This is an old function, so it's a bit less clean. So basically all we do is we just iterate down, and as soon as we hit a point where we either like hit something that doesn't exist, we return undefined, or we keep working our way through the list or through the map until we get to the last key, and then we return the value that comes out of that. So this will return undefined if you give it a nested structure that ends in a dead end. So you always have to make sure that you're handling undefined values, because typically GameMaker crashes when you try to do stuff with undefined values. Station get module price. All right, so let's clean this code up a little bit so that we can read. Yeah, I gotta relearn this code base. I'm kind of re-solving problems that I probably get paid. So we don't need that. Station get module price. And maybe at some point stations will also sell things other than modules, so you can kind of do some arbitrage or something. So right now this is only giving us the price of that a station is willing to sell you their module. Coordinates is station coordinates. All right, so the idea here should be this code should be super readable, so that if I come in here and station get item in slot, that I've got variable names that all make sense, that I can see what they're doing very easily, all that stuff. And it's going to return this this one-dimensional array with 3 slots that has item, quality, and price. All right, so we have station get item in slot. So now if we click on this item, station interface, select item. Okay, so if we've clicked on the module area, we're not going to worry about that. That is, let me rename this actually because it should be player modules. Item ID selected. Okay, so we're not going to worry about clicking on player modules just yet, or player cargo. For now, we're only working on selecting items in the space station's inventory. So now we're going to, so we've clicked on a slot in there, and we know the region we've clicked on, so station get item in slot. Let's actually rename this to item info. I would normally interpret get item in slot to mean it's going to give me just the item's ID. So, and when we change the name, then GameMaker will often lose track of the params. So if we just go back into the script and load it back up, then we'll get our references back. All right, so station coordinates is let's see, station interface. Station interface, no, yeah, station coordinates. And item slot. So we will say in all cases we can just grab these, and then what do we actually display there we can modify. So click on the station inventory, item ID selected is the first slot in the selection info, which is the item ID. So first, let's make sure that that works. We did a lot of stuff here without testing anything, so yeah. Ooh, yeah, okay. Select item. Now we have to take this. Player cargo. All right, we're not going to worry about selecting player cargo just yet. And here is where we select the module, which is now station inventory slot. So we should be able to say slot station region dot inventory. Okay, so it's still working. We are now instead pulling the item ID out of the station's inventory behind the scenes instead of just grabbing the item ID right out of the gate. So we're not pulling the quality over. So we gotta make sure we do that. Yeah. Okay. And now that we have this, we should be able to draw like a, so the whole point of doing all this was so that we know what specifically we clicked on not just that we clicked on like a speed booster, but that we clicked on that speed booster. So now that we have the inventory slot here, we can basically draw some kind of a thing behind the item. Before we draw the item, let's see. So we've moved everything down. All right, so let's just try this and see what we get. We're just going to draw a rectangle behind this area of the interface. So where are we drawing things? We're drawing things at station section left, station section right. So let's do that. Station section right. YB plus. We have this thing called half line height, which maybe. Do we have a whole line height anywhere? Item draw size plus spacing. I mean, we could just do that. Okay. Plus line height. And we want this rectangle to be, we'll make it aqua for now. The best of the colors. Okay, and then we want to only draw this if the station inventory slot matches the slot that we have selected. And the region that we've selected is the station inventory region. So if these things are true, which should be based on what we did over here in our station interface selection, then when we click on this item, we should see a little like highlight pop up behind it, basically. Or the game will crash. Those are kind of just some of the options. Okay. So now we are getting a lot more feedback about what we've clicked on. I think it kind of looks bad, but it's just a little too bright, so maybe a 0.25. It's okay. It's okay. Maybe we just go super faint. This doesn't need to be overwhelming. It's just a point of feedback so that you know what you've done. Okay. So now you know that you've clicked on that health tank. And if I click on gummy bears, now nothing is happening. So we will want to do the same thing over here with the gummy bear, with my cargo. Okay, so I think we'll do that, and then that'll probably be the last thing for the stream for today. Then we'll kind of figure out what's next on Trello and then call it a day. So you can now click on specific items in the station interface, and that unique item is selected. Okay, so we're going to update our station interface select item script because we need to now be able to click things in the player's cargo. So the player's cargo is an inventory list coming from space inventory. So we have a thing called inventory.cargo. Get space inventory slot item. Okay, so I think we already have pretty much what we need in our scripts. So when we click on player cargo, we're going to say item ID selected equals get space inventory slot item. Inventory ID is my cargo, and the slot is the slot that we clicked on. Simple. And that should be it. And then we just need to also draw in the player's cargo area that thing. So here, just like we did before, and again, this I is problematic because the I is the let's see, player cargo slot. Okay, so in this case, we're just going to rename I to player cargo slot. Notice how we get down here, and this is all I's as well, but these are actually modules. So future you will thank you if you name your dang variables. And they're going to take steps to mitigate the 100% dodge chance that plagues the Goop trilogy. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so that, section, oh, okay, wait, section right. What did we do here? Ah, okay. We need cargo section left. So we do have some dry violations in here in terms of dry being don't repeat yourself. But my general rule is to not stress about those too hard until I hit a point where I'm going to be using a system more, then I'll refactor and kind of repackage things up. Okay, so now we just need to point in rectangle. We need to re-enable this line here, and we are checking on this player cargo slot. And the station region is the player cargo section. As you recall, when we come in here into this selection script, this is where we select the item ID and tell the station interface what we have clicked on. Okay, so I'm not getting the backdrop being drawn, but it is selecting it, so let's see what has gone wrong. There, cargo slot and item regions. Oh, there we go. Got the wrong region. Cargo section left and cargo section left. Two stupid things. It's just programming, you know? Huh. Okay, and then to kind of save on, so there's a lot of sort of magic numbers happening here, which is like this alpha and this aqua. Magic number meaning something that's hard coded into that area of the code when it doesn't really have to be. So we can actually come into the create event and we could say highlight row color and alpha. And then we'd go ahead and fix this. So that if we ever want to change how this looks, we don't need to do it in two different places. And also, it's easier to search for highlight row color than C aqua, or it's easier to search for highlight row alpha than 0.1, because you're going to get a lot of 0.1s. So let's just test this, make sure that works, and then see if we can easily change the color. And okay, that's good. And now let's try yellow, and maybe like 0.15. Looks terrible, but it works. Okay, so we will send this out. Individual items can be selected in the player's cargo via the space station interface. Okay, so now the tooltip is uniquely applied to the specific item you click, not just the type of item. Let's make a checklist on here, which is station inventory, player inventory, player modules. So we know that these two are done. Player modules are not done yet. And show selection area around the item you clicked. So we actually just already did that. So we can just go ahead and archive that. And so we don't have the item prices, and we don't have buttons to actually interact with the things. So, so I think we'll call it there. So the next time I stream, which I'm going to try to figure out how to do this more consistently. So last year when I was doing this, I was doing 4-hour streams every Saturday morning, which is probably a bit much. I think it'd be easier for me to probably just do more like 2-hour streams and maybe do that once or twice a weekend instead of all the time. So so I'll be posting some info. I'll create an event on this channel. So if you follow the channel, I think you'll get a notification about that once I know the next time a stream is happening. So I think the plan though is to do it pretty routinely again. So next time I stream, we'll get the module stuff hooked up, and then hopefully we can start digging into what to do with calculating stats on these modules, so that you can actually like go buy stuff, make your ship better, and actually have that mean something. So thank you guys very much for watching, and be sure to do whatever the follow thing is on Twitch so that you get the notifications about next time this pops up. All right, guys, catch you later.